and welcome everyone. A new episode of Money Means Business. Today it was such a big day in Jeddah. For the very first time, American President Joe Biden met with this large number of Arab leaders. Well, despite the fact that the crises in the whole world were focusing on terrorism, on extremist ideologies and stuff like that, but guess what? Today the case was a little bit different. The main agenda of talks focused on energy, on food security, on climate change. All for the best interest of the peoples, the layman in the street. How to guarantee that he or she is going to find something to eat and to live. Because when it comes to climate change, it's a global phenomenon which the planet itself should work on solving it. Well, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi had such a speech, and he had also a number of meetings on the sidelines of the important gathering. All this and more we are going to discuss in a special episode of our program. Stay tuned only on Nile TV International. Right after the short break, I'm going to be back with more. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi discussed food security and disruptions to energy supplies with American President Joe Biden as they met for the first time on Saturday on the sidelines of an Arab summit in Jeddah. Presidential spokesperson Ambassador Bassam Radi said the two leaders also addressed ways to revive a Palestinian peace process, as the American president pointed out to Egypt's pivotal role in the Middle East under the wise leadership of President al-Sisi, which represents a key pillar for maintaining peace and security in the region. The discussions also covered Egypt's efforts to secure a legally binding agreement over the operation of the so-called Ethiopian dam to preserve water and national security of Egypt, coinciding with protecting the interests of all three countries, Egypt, Sudan and Ethiopia. Meanwhile, the two heads of state tackled a number of regional and international files of mutual interest as President al-Sisi stressed the strategic relationship between Egypt and the United States and announced his readiness to take it to a whole new level. Biden said the U.S. administration is looking forward to achieve frameworks of bilateral cooperation and enhancing coordination and strategic consultation with Egypt in the upcoming stage. Also in Jeddah, President al-Sisi met with Iraqi Prime Minister Mostafa al-Kadhimi, where he underscored Egypt's fixed policy to boost its Arab and national role, offering all kinds of support to the Iraqi people on all levels. For his part, al-Kadhimi hailed Egypt's supporting role for Iraq and described it as strategic on both regional and international levels. President Sisi also affirmed that Egyptian-Kuwaiti cooperation is a vital part of continued regional stability during his meeting with Kuwaiti Crown Prince Sheikh Mash'al al-Ahmad al-Jaber al-Sabah. Sisi also affirmed Egypt's keenness to closely coordinate with Kuwait towards development in the Middle East as a major priority for the Egyptian foreign policy. Welcome back, and let me first welcome my dear guest live here in the studio, Engineer Mostafa Naggary, member of the Supreme Committee for Strategic Commodities. Thank you very much for being with us, sir.
It's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
And we are going to start immediately as we do have a lot to speak about. As I said in my intro today, it was such a big day in Jeddah, and in the speech of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi before the world leaders who were attending the summit, he said so many important points. First, that the summit, for example, is being held at a very critical moment in our modern history in general. Second, food security is something which we should all focus on before anything else. Third, that joint efforts or joint action, it's no more a luxury. No, it's something which should be prevailing when it comes to any summit talks among any of the world or Arab leaders. Let's take point by point. Would you please, I'd like to have your vision.
First of all, we have to realize that by 2050, the global population will be 9 billion. And the world will have to increase its food production by 80% from today. This is the major problem which we all have to focus on. Egypt is not far away from this equation. Egypt by 2050 we will be 193 million, and today we are importing between 65 to 70% of our food. So what President Sisi have mentioned today is, as you mentioned, that this is the main concern of each person, each family in Egypt. And according to the challenges which everybody is facing, and the fast events and the accelerated actions between the major G20 and the G7, according to the problem and the crisis between Europe, US from a side, and Russia from another side, which we have faced a lot of obstacles in the supply chain, in the major strategic food crops, which affect mainly our people. And that's why President Sisi have pointed to that, and most of the leaders have pointed to that. Because if we are saying that we are facing severe challenges, out of which one is the water insufficiency, if we can say, or the lack of water, and then the high cost of land reclamation for agriculture. The third point is the climate exchange, as you mentioned, and the fourth point, which have been cleared lately, is how to trade. And this is really the problem which is affecting the sanctions according to the Russian-Ukrainian war, out of which, of course, some lights are sparkling at the moment, that the US have raised the sum of the sanctions for the food, for the medical equipments, for the medicine, for the fertilizers from Russia, for some of the power and the gas supplies. But we still are waiting to see the reaction of the Russians, because they mentioned 2 days ago that they are going to trade for the wheat only in the ruble, in their national currency. And that's why I mentioned how to trade, because according to the sanctions, we are facing some problems to arrange the payments for what we need from Russia. Lately, Egypt have succeeded to hold the tenders and to import 1.3 million tons of wheat. About 800,000 of them is coming from Russia. So if we don't find a way to pay this, the cost of the invoices in rubles, it will be a problem. So with the raise of the sanctions by Joe Biden yesterday, I think this would help a little bit to secure and to increase the food sufficiency limit for the Egyptians, according to the problem of the supply chain all over the world.
Let's be more frank, if you permit me, Engineer Mostafa. Who is the real payer? Who is really paying for the sanctions? Is it Russia or the developing countries? I mean, you know, if anyone who is not an expert in politics or in economy would be asked about the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, he would say simply it's not taking place here, so it's okay. But what have been proved on the ground, that the Russian-Ukrainian conflict has its repercussions on the whole world.
Correct.
Starting from the US till the poorest country in Africa.
Correct. Let me tell you that the agriculture sector and the power sector is maybe coming in the front of even the industry sector at the moment. And we can see that even any conflict between two countries, they start mainly to ban imports of the agriculture crops, because they are going to damage the farmers in one side, and they are going to damage the consumers on the other side. So, and this we have seen a lot for the last 10 years, mainly. I will remind you when there was a conflict between Russia and Turkey. So the first decision to be taken that Russia stopped to import the Turkish agri crops, and this have damaged a lot the Turkish agri sector. On the other side, Russia and Europe also, there was a ban.
Since annexing Crimea.
Yes.
This was since 2014.
Yes.
Let me put my question in other words,
Yes.
if you permit me. When it comes to ban gold, for example, it's okay.
Yes.
I mean, acceptable, if I
Yes.
may say so. But when it comes to grains, when it comes to seeds, when it
Yes.
comes to food, who is really paying the dear price of that? Was it a bad idea from the EU to do that? And was it an uncalculated risk, if I may say
Yes.
so?
Yeah.
Would you please elaborate?
It is, you know, a sort of calculations which at the end are leading to losses to everybody. This is my concern, and this is according to the sanctions when they started in Egypt. Here we called to stop any sanctions for the food and the medicine and the power, and unfortunately Russia is one of the major countries who are controlling the grains in the whole world. I mean, they are, if we talk about the wheat, they are producing up to 90 million tons of wheat, while they are only consuming 35. So they have at least a big part in the trade of wheat all over the world. And maybe the calculations were giving that Russia cannot store such huge quantities of wheat, and maybe it will be damaged. But what we see that China have helped them, Pakistan have helped them, and they started to export to the other side of the world. So that's why the calculation at the end, you have to re-evaluate your decisions always. So I think that these sanctions for the food have really damaged the whole world, and everybody have to be a little bit quiet and wise to understand that nobody can stand to see that the prices of the wheat is reaching $500. Nobody can imagine that while the normal price was 200, 220. And that's why this is piling the budgets of the governments a lot, especially in the
so was it normal
countries.
that Biden was there, particularly, of course, to participate and to share and to have his meetings, okay, but to ask for Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, to increase the output of oil, of crude,
Correct.
just to make sure that the prices are not going to hike more and more?
Correct. Let me tell you that not everybody is published is the real announcement. There is something hidden, but we can see that there is starting some actions. So we see that Saudi Arabia will pump investments in Jordan and Egypt, and this was a decision taken today, and that's why we are all focusing on what we can benefit from all these summits, because nobody is, as you mentioned, it's all blocks now.
Yep.
Okay, Egypt, Turkey, Iran, and Saudi Arabia is now preparing to join the BRICS, and there is a big welcoming from China and Russia for that.
Yeah.
So you can see that there is changes in the blocks which we can deal. You can see also the devaluation of the euro. It's really
I
affecting.
think for the very first time to equal $1.
It is today is less.
It's below, yeah.
But at the end, this will hinder the imports of Europe, and Europe for us as Egypt is one of the major markets which we export. Also our agriculture products and vegetables. So that's why this will affect us. The cost of shipping is high, and then the euro is low. So the cost at the end for the European consumer is high, and they are suffering a lot according to the increases of the prices of the power, of the insurance, of the food, of the facilities and the services. Everything really is in a mess. So that's why this meeting was very important, as you mentioned, that all the countries are talking about the food safety and the food security. Both of them is important.
Food safety and food security, two key words or
Yes.
two pillars,
Yeah.
to be accurate. And it was announced today also that there were 18 deals which were signed between the United States and Saudi Arabia in the fields of energy, of healthcare, of many
Yes. Yes.
fields. In addition to $1 billion aid.
Correct.
Also in the same field, the field of food security, to Jordan, to the Middle East in general. How do you see these deals which were signed today, sir?
As I mentioned, that there is, for Egypt, there is a national benefit, and there is a regional benefit, and there is international, as we say, cooperation. Okay, so for Egypt and for the Arab countries, we are all in one basket, as we say. And there is a lot of projects which is linking both of us according to the global idea about the supply of the power and the oil supplies. Egypt will benefit, of course, and we have to remember that from day one, President Sisi was elected, he started to look to the map, and he started to make the marine borders, the sea borders for Egypt, especially for the gas and for the oil. And as you know that we have a very strong infrastructure of gas liquefaction. So Egypt will benefit a lot according to the map of supply of the power to Europe from these agreements. So on the other side, internally, we have to focus on the mega projects of the agriculture, food sufficiency and the food
We will
production.
return to that because this is
Yes,
very important.
it's
This is
very
our
important.
national security.
Yes, this is our
Yeah.
national security, yes.
Well, but before going to what's going on the ground, because
Yes.
those mega projects are very important, and it's very important to shed more light on them because this is the future of the coming generations.
Correct.
We are speaking about our strategic sustainable development agenda 2030 and 2050. But before leaving Jeddah today, there was also a very important press conference which was held by His Excellency Prince Farhan bin Faisal Al Saud, and he spoke also about food security and about what's going on, among other things, of course. How do you see what we call now the strategic partnership between the Arab countries and the United States, between Egypt and the United States? Because also one of the main messages which were sent by President Sisi during his meeting, the first meeting with his American counterpart today, that he is ready to take the Egyptian American strategic relationships or partnership, to be accurate, to another level.
Yes.
So is it a win-win situation?
Yes.
And if yes, how?
Yeah, I can tell that, as we mentioned, that nobody is going to play the game by himself. We should all think about the future of our people. And according to the Saudi Arabia have been always having a very good relation with Egypt for decades, and lately with the relation between King Salman and President Sisi, we see that there is a lot of projects which will lead to the self-sufficiency of the food security. And it's not a secret, but we are all called by the presidential house in Egypt to try to nominate who are ready to partner with Saudis and Emirates, especially in the agri sector. So that's why this was taking place maybe before Al Eid vacation. We have been in contacts about that because there is arrangements, and this arrangements is controlled by the president and by the king himself, and by Prince in Emirates. They are all trying to connect the business people together to try to extend
In
their
addition to the tripartite
development, yeah.
summits which took place between President Sisi and Jordanian King Abdullah
Correct.
II
Yeah.
and Mostafa al-Kadhimi, the Iraqi
Yes.
Prime Minister. This is on the other side of the coin.
Yes.
So it is, I like the smile,
Yeah.
which is saying a
Yeah.
lot, because Egypt is regaining its position when
Correct.
if it comes to the Black Continent, to
Yeah.
Africa, or the Middle East
Yeah.
in general, or the Arab region. So this
Just,
is
I can
Egypt,
tell you,
Arab, African,
yeah,
Mediterranean.
It is roots. The trade and the investment is roots. So our route to Iraq is Jordan, and have been always having a very positive trade line between Egypt and Iraq through through Jordan.
Yep.
And you can see as well that Egypt have refused to join the ally against Iran, because at the end there is, as I mentioned, there is a regional benefit for us, and Iran is a part of this region, and Iran is having a relation with Egypt for oil. They are exporting a lot of oil to Egypt.
Saudi Arabia itself, today,
yes,
it was said
yes,
by His Excellency
yeah,
Prince Farhan
yeah,
that Saudi Arabia is committed to reach a positive
correct,
understanding
yeah,
with Iran.
with Iran.
So,
and that's why this is, the politics which is affecting or affected by economy. And so at the end we have all to sit and we have all to see how to
it was said
to safeguard
clearly
our people.
to
at the
Iran,
end.
do not interfere in the internal affairs of Arab countries, but to reach a positive settlement, a positive agreement. This is also very much welcomed. But what about us here in Egypt?
Yeah.
Well, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi in so many occasions was really keen to say that our strategic reserves of our basic commodities is sufficient for at least 6 months. And he is all the time in continuous meetings with Prime Minister Dr. Mostafa Madbouli, with the Minister of Supply and Internal Trade Ali al-Musalhi, with Minister of Finance Dr. Muhammad Ma'id, to make sure that all our basic commodities are there and the Egyptians are not going to suffer any lack of these basic commodities. Even Kulluna Wahid, or this presidential initiative, is going to continue till the end of the month, and it's really very popular, gaining the attraction or attracted millions of Egyptians. What about the strategic reserves of our commodities? Do we have numbers? Do we have statistics? Do you have an expert here who is going to answer these questions right after the short break? So stay tuned.
At a time when the Russian-Ukrainian crisis cast its shadow over the global economy, the Egyptian state rushed to develop a plan to avoid the negative effects of the crisis and the challenges it entailed, for most of which are inflationary pressures and the rise in energy and basic commodity prices. In addition to maintaining production levels and expanding development projects in an effort to maintain growth rates and contribute to reducing inflation rates. In this regard, the Cabinet's Media Center published a report highlighting the decline in the general inflation rate for the first time in 6 months, continuing repercussions of the Russian-Ukrainian crisis. The report indicated that the decline in the prices of fruits and vegetables pushes the general inflation rate to decline during June 2022. The report revealed that general inflation in the urban areas of the Republic was achieved on a monthly basis at a negative rate for the first time since December 2021, as it recorded minus 0.1% in June 2022 compared to 1.1% in May 2022, 3.3% in April 2022, and 2.2% in March 2022. 1.6% in February 2022 and 0.9% in January 2022. This comes while the inflation rate recorded minus 0.1% in December 2021 compared to 0.1% in August and November 2021. 1.5% in October, 1.1% in September, and 0.9% in July of the same year. The report indicated that the food and beverage price index in the urban areas of the Republic recorded a change of minus 1.8% during June 2022 compared to May 2022. With the continuation of the Russian-Ukrainian crisis, the global oil market has been greatly affected 5 months ago, and crude prices witnessed a state of fluctuation between rise and fall, especially after the package of sanctions imposed by Western countries on Russia, including its oil products. Since the outbreak of the crisis, oil prices have witnessed highs and lows, reaching a maximum of $130 a barrel, and the United States of America demanded that oil exporting countries raise their production of crude to compensate the global market, which was greatly affected by the sanctions imposed on Russian oil, which was rejected. This prompted the Egyptian government to raise the selling price of all 3 types of gasoline as of last Wednesday at about 8 Egyptian pounds per liter of petrol 80, 9.25 Egyptian pounds per liter of 92 gasoline, and 10.75 Egyptian pounds per liter of gasoline 95, as well as increasing the price of diesel and kerosene to 7.25 per liter. And a ton of diesel supplied to the rest of the industries is 400 pounds per ton. So the price of a ton becomes 5,000 pounds per ton, and the price of diesel supplied to the food and electricity industries remains stable. One of the experts said that there are expectations of an increase in the cost of living during the coming period against the background of the increase in the prices of various fuel products, especially that the committee's decision this time includes the prices of diesel, which is one of the factors that strongly affect the cost of transportation and thus is reflected in the final prices of the products. On the other hand, market observers confirm that the Egyptian market is witnessing successive increases in prices that started as a result of the increase in international prices of commodities and production inputs, which contributed to the increase in the prices of products during the past days, amid expectations of new increases in prices with the increase in the price of gasoline and diesel starting from yesterday. Dr. Mostafa Madbouli, Prime Minister, commented on the decision to move the prices of petroleum products and the state's role in bearing the burdens on citizens as a result of global crisis, stressing the government's keenness to communicate with citizens on a permanent basis, to listen to their opinions, suggestions, and problems they face, to work on finding solutions to them. Pointing out that moving the price of diesel came for the first time in more than 30 months, with an increase of 50 piastres per liter, and that the country imports the bulk of its needs of these products from abroad, with a total of about 100 million barrels annually. Madbouli also stressed that despite the increase that occurred yesterday, Egypt is still classified as one of the 10 countries that witnessed a cheap price of diesel in the world, and that it is also one of the 20 countries that witness a cheap price of gasoline in the world. Prime Minister also made it clear during his television statements that despite all the unprecedented crisis and the significant rise in the prices of all commodities, the Egyptian state is making an extraordinary effort to secure a strategic reserve of all basic commodities within an average of 6 months, which we were able to thank God and His generosity that we implemented in light of all these challenges from the rise of these commodities, whether wheat or edible oil. From time to time, the government confirms its keenness to increase the citizen's income, and the income of the citizen in any country in the world does not increase except by increasing the country's gross domestic product through the implementation of large development projects in order to achieve a major leap in the standard of life for citizens and the provision of services to them.
Welcome back. Engineer Mostafa, you are a member of the Supreme Committee for Strategic Commodities. And I think, and would you please correct me if I'm wrong, that the committee is facing with the global challenges such difficult and tough times. And if we do have some statistics to make sure that we are enjoying safe security, safe food security, or we are secured when it comes to our basic or strategic commodities.
Yeah. As you mentioned that we are focusing mainly and monitoring the sufficiency of each crop. We are controlling 14 crops mainly, or 14 food items as we say, and we have to focus day by day for the demand and the supply. So at the end we have to have a sufficiency of 6 months according to the advice of President El Sisi for that. And before February 2022, which is the war between Russia and Ukraine, we were going let us say more or less on the
steadily.
Average steadily.
Yeah.
And then we had a tender which was in November 2021, and the supply of the wheat, and there also was a tender for oil and sugar, and both of them was prepared to supply on January, February, March. So the supplies of January arrived safely. The supplies of February, let us say 50%, because the war started and the Black Sea area was totally blocked. And according also to that the insurance companies have increased the war risk. We have an item called war risk in the shipping freight, and it was triple. And that's why the suppliers were in a corner. They cannot find alternative, and it was really a big problem.
Yeah.
But thanks God that the Egyptian crop started in April, and that's why we didn't take so much from the stocks which we have for the wheat. For the maize, it was a problem. The prices of the maize increased dramatically. I can tell you that Egypt needs 1 million ton of yellow corn or maize every month. So we need 12 million tons, out of which we produce nothing. We only produce white maize, but we don't produce any of the
Yellows.
It's only 2-3%. And this we had at that time 7 months stocks, and we started the supply little bit more with very high prices, but at the end we are more or less stable and steady, and there is no fear. I hope that with the raise of the sanctions by the US, and also I hope that the European Union will take the same action as the US, and the Russian will react positively, situation will be much more easier. The prices will settle down a little bit. The shipping service will act more positively, and then we will not face any problem.
Sir, also, I don't know if we're going to have time to return back to food security and this issue in specific or no, but I cannot miss speaking about climate change.
Yes.
and about COP27, this very important
Yeah.
summit, which is going to be hosted by the Red Sea Resort of
Correct.
Sharm el-Sheikh next November, inshallah. And it was mentioned today whether by President Sisi in his speech or by American President Joe Biden, who said that America is keen to share, to participate, and to continue with it.
Yeah.
Also, there was a very important phone call today between the President-designate of the COP27, our top diplomat, Sameh Shukri, and Prince Charles of the UK, as London hosted COP26. So
Correct.
there is all the time this mutual consultations between both.
Yeah.
How do you see this this edition of the climate change summit? Because I think it's going to address the whole world, because the climate change is another threat regarding food security. True?
Correct. As I mentioned in the beginning, that there is 4 big obstacles which is facing to have the food security for each country. But one major item of them is that the whole global is really connected to it, which is the climatic change. And I can tell that it's like if you're playing a chess, okay? So the climate change can be good for some countries, and some countries are going to suffer a lot. So at the beginning of the issue, it is all have to go for the research centers to try to implement seeds and seedlings which can resist the water, the climate change. So as we see here in Egypt, some crops were damaged totally this year. And I expect in Europe it will happen for the coming 3-4 years. So at the end, we have always to use the as we say, the scientific way to solve this problem, because it's a you know, as we say, it's a mega problem, but it can be you can treat it. You can treat with it, because at the end
it can be managed.
Yes,
at
yes,
least in a way.
Yes, because at the end it is a type of seeds and type of seedlings which can resist the high heat. So at the end,
I
Egypt
don't know why
started.
I thought that you are going to speak about biological engineering.
Biological engineering is a part,
Yeah.
but the mainly problem to solve the heat is the type of the seeds which can resist this heat. At the end, it's a work. I was in contact today with the research center, or the Agri Research Center of Egypt, and they are in a programs for that. It needs a lot of finance. It needs a lot of donation from several institutions in the whole world, because it's really, it will affect. And I'm sure that with the help of others, you know, there is a lot of, with the COP27, it will not only, I think this year it's something will lead to several committees which will continue their work to try to implement more types of seeds and more types of seedlings which will manage and try to you know, to try to adjust the productivity, because we lost a lot of the olive. I was in contact with them for the olive. 90% of the crop of the olive of Egypt was damaged, according to that. And we see also for the mangoes.
If we
the
do need
citrus.
finance, we do have the brains, we do have the researchers, we do have the innovators who are going, inshallah, to continue on the right path. May God bless the soul of Professor Dr. Ahmed Mustaghi, the father of bioengineering.
Thanks God that Egypt joined a very important committee which is called the UPOF, the Union of the Producers of the Varieties. And this was very important for Egypt, that they allowed to us to import specific varieties of all the vegetables and the fruits. And this is really have increased the productivity of each item. So this was very important achievement for Egyptian government to try to join this agreement. And really, we are seeing now. You have seen that the tomatoes from just 3-4 months, it was 20 and 25 pounds per kilo. Now it is only 2 pounds.
Yep.
So it all has to come with the types of seeds, and at the end the climate change. And sometimes we're damaged.
And to add to this, but this is going to be discussed in another episode, inshallah, clean, renewable energy.
This is something else. The Green Agreement, as
yeah.
you say, it is a big.
This is another big issue.
Yeah, another
Yes.
big issue. Yeah.
Well, I enjoyed my time, sir, but unfortunately we are running out of time. But
It's a
inshallah,
pleasure.
tomorrow is another day, and we are going to leave you, sir, with a promise to see you again in more episodes of our program.
I hope all the best for the Egyptians, for the farmers mainly, and I wish that really we can overcome and pass these difficult days for everybody, not only the Egyptians.
Coming from the countryside, I promise that we are going to just overcome all these crises, because when we put something in mind, we can do miracles.
Yes, yeah,
This
we
is
can
the
do
Egyptians.
it, as
Yes.
we say.
Well, we were very much delighted to have with us live here in the studio Engineer Mostafa Naggary, member of the Supreme Committee for Strategic Commodities. Thank you very much, sir.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Well, by this we come to the end of this episode of Money Means Business. Till we meet again same time on Nile TV International. On behalf of my dear colleague Nermin Nadim, Kamil Ali, and myself, Nermin Abdurrahman, many thanks for watching.